Hello and welcome to the 10th episode of our China under Trump series. Today we will be discussing intellectual property rights, and joining me today is Stephen Reese, intellectual property partner at Clifford Chance. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So first off, in mid-August, President Trump announced a probe into intellectual property theft caused by the Chinese to the detriment of U.S. businesses. And allegedly this theft could be as high as $600 billion, allegedly. So in the sense of after this announcement of this inquiry, what happens next? What does this probe actually entail?
Sure. I mean, there aren't huge amounts of detail as to what's going to happen with the probe. What I'm anticipating it's looking into is the requirement under Chinese law at the moment that for foreign investors looking to come and trade within China, there is generally a requirement that they must form a joint venture with a Chinese entity. And as part of that, they must also undertake various technology transfer activities to put their intellectual property into that joint venture. Now, I think President Trump has referred to that as theft. I think there are lots of ways of looking at it, but I anticipate that's really the focus of it. And one of the other issues that we've seen has been how China has had to adjust its laws to the TRIPS agreement, which is an international agreement through the World Trade Organization. And the TRIPS agreement is really about having all the countries, all the signatories, agree a minimum set of conditions for their intellectual property. And a fundamental plank of that is about having a non-discriminatory approach to non-residents of each country's jurisdiction. And so that, I think, is going to be the focus of this particular inquiry.
And if at the end of this investigative period, which I think is 1 year, if the US does actually find sufficient evidence to say that this theft has happened, what would happen next?
So, I think there is evidence out there already in terms of how the Chinese authorities require technology transfer to come in. So I anticipate that this is really the start of negotiations. And naturally, I anticipate that the report will find that the policy requiring joint ventures and requiring technology transfer into China is going to be criticized, and it will move towards trade discussions, I anticipate.
And do you think that at the end of the day, this kind of probe is justified by the Trump administration? Do you think it does make sense?
Well, a lot of countries that have sort of moved into signing up to TRIPS have had to adjust their laws to bring it in line. When China joined the WTO, I mean, it had a huge exercise to translate a lot of its domestic laws to bring it in line with all of the WTO requirements. It has taken time, and China isn't the only country that isn't fully compliant with TRIPS.
I see. So, but it is, I mean, a lot of analysts do argue that if foreign companies want to enter the Chinese market, they do at the end of the day have to probably meet some requirements or bow down to some requirements that they wouldn't necessarily do in other economies. So I guess probably that side of the exercise might justify in some way this kind of probe.
Well, I think it's right that we should all be on an equal playing field, and if that requires negotiation, then that's right. But I mean, we've certainly been helping a lot of clients for many years who are looking to set up in China and bring their technology into China. And there are ways that you can deal with the requirements in China to try and manage your trade secrets, for example, being leaked into China. And you know, the concern is that you put your technology in and it then leaks throughout China. But there are means and mechanisms, certainly, that we've deployed for our clients to make sure that's controlled.
And as of now, Stephen, would you say that this probe announcement has affected in some ways business relations between the US and Chinese companies? Could it do so in the future?
So, I mean, very interestingly, there was a new law announced in China at the start of this year relating to propulsion systems for vehicles, and that new law required effectively a full tech transfer into the joint venture in China before they were authorized to manufacture vehicles. And there had been a bit of a backlash on that already, and in fact one of the interior ministers within China has come out on record to say that's been misunderstood, and actually there wasn't a full requirement for tech transfer for that particular activity. So I wonder whether there's already a softening behind this anyway, and we'll see where that goes with the results of the probe.
We'll have to wait, I guess, for the next year to come through.
Indeed.
Thank you so much for joining us, Stephen.
Thank you.